Thanksgiving wasn't even 5 minutes in when my mother tapped her glass, wearing that same bright smile she used whenever she wanted people to look at Lily. "My sister's wedding was beautiful," she said loudly, almost theatrically. "So, Julia, when's yours?" A few people chuckled the way families do when they think something is harmless. My dad kept carving the turkey like it was urgent work he couldn't pause. And Lily, well, she watched me. Too still. Too cautious. Like she already knew where this was going. I set my fork down. "I already had mine," I said. "You got invitations." The whole room seemed to freeze. The kind of silence that feels sharp enough to touch. My dad whispered, barely audible, "We never got them." And that was the moment everything they'd been hiding finally cracked open. Growing up, I learned early that my family worshipped perfection. Perfect photos. Perfect milestones. Perfect stories they could brag about at dinners with people they barely liked. And in every single one of those stories, Lily sat right in the center. The golden child. The one with the glow. I wasn't bitter when I was young. I honestly thought that was how families worked. One kid shined, the other made space. One kid got the spotlight, the other learned to applaud quietly from the wings. By the time we hit our teens, it wasn't a pattern anymore. It was policy. A system. My mother curated Lily's life like she was preparing a showroom. Dance lessons, cheer tryouts, new photo shoots, award ceremonies that filled the hallway walls. Meanwhile, my moments, the things I was proud of, science fair ribbons or my college acceptance letter, got polite smiles and a soft, "Not right now, sweetheart, the lighting isn't good for Lily's headshots." I didn't fight it. I adapted. I learned to survive in silence, to watch and predict and stay one step ahead so I wouldn't get crushed by expectations that were never meant for me anyway. But moving to Seattle changed me. 3 hours away was not rebellion. It was breathing room. I built a life that didn't need my family's approval. A small apartment with tall windows. Research notes scattered everywhere. Shirts that smelled like Ethan's morning coffee. My job analyzing water quality and environmental data wasn't glamorous to the people my mother desperately wanted to impress, but it mattered. It made sense. It made me feel grounded. And Ethan, he saw me. Really saw me. Not as Lily's sister, not as the background character my family had sculpted me into. He listened. Remembered things. Cared without performing. His family noticed me too. Not because they wanted a perfect photo to post, but because they genuinely paid attention. The first time Helen hugged me, her arms didn't loosen immediately, the way my mother's always did. She held on, warm and steady. She asked real questions about my work. She remembered details. Robert did too. They weren't perfect, but they were present. And presence was something I'd never really experienced before. So when Ethan proposed on a foggy June morning by the water, I said yes instantly. There was no hesitation, no fear, no second guessing. We kept the wedding small, personal, honest. We chose a coastal chapel, sent invitations only to the people who actually knew us, not the ones who wanted something to talk about. And quietly, in a place I didn't admit to anyone, I hoped my family would show up. I hoped maybe this time they'd choose me. I designed the invitations myself. Had them printed early. Sent them with signature required because if there was one thing I knew about my parents' home, it was that anything that wasn't Lily-related had a habit of disappearing. I triple-checked addresses. Refreshed tracking numbers like prayer. When everything showed as delivered, I let myself feel hopeful. Just a little. Then the silence came. No call. No text. Not even an accidental congratulations. Weeks went by. The wedding went by. And still nothing. I gave myself 100 excuses so I wouldn't face the truth. Maybe the tracking system glitched. Maybe they were planning something. Maybe they were going to surprise me. But a colder suspicion started growing, slow and bone deep. Someone didn't want those invitations seen. And I didn't know how right I was, until Thanksgiving night. The silence after the wedding didn't just sit there. It grew. Spread. Filled every corner of my days. At first, I waited. People get busy, I told myself. They'll reach out. They'll ask questions. They'll at least notice they missed a whole wedding. But days became weeks. The quiet turned into something heavy and deliberate. I tried reaching out. A call to my mother went straight to voicemail. A message to my father got a short, "I'll call later," which never happened. And then I opened our family group chat and saw my name was gone. Quietly removed. Not blocked. Not announced. Just erased. One night while washing dishes, I tried to sound casual, telling Ethan. "Maybe it's a glitch," I said, but my voice shook. He dried his hands and looked at me gently. "Julia, did they respond to the invitations at all?" I shook my head. He didn't push. He just said, "Let's check the logs." Together we went through access activity for the family email. And there it was. The notification for my digital invitation was opened, deleted, and permanently erased. The timestamp was crystal clear. It wasn't forgetfulness. It wasn't a mistake. Someone deliberately made sure my messages never reached anyone. And deep down, I didn't need the name. I knew. Lily. She'd always been the gatekeeper of that house. The one who opened mail. Sorted bills. Screened calls. Decided what information was worth passing along. Everything flowed through her first. And once the thought landed, everything else aligned. Too cleanly. Too painfully. She was planning her massive September wedding, the one with the designer gown and 350 guests. Her whole identity was wrapped in that spotlight. My wedding, small or not, could shift attention. And Lily didn't share attention. Still, I needed proof. So I checked the tracking receipts. For deliveries. For signatures. One signature I recognized instantly. Hers. That looping, confident handwriting. She hadn't forgotten my invitations. She intercepted them. She erased them. She erased my wedding. I felt my throat tighten as the truth settled inside me like a bruise spreading. Ethan touched my arm gently. "Julia, what do you want to do?" I didn't know yet. Anger wasn't enough. Hurt wasn't new. What I felt was older, deeper. What do you do when the people who are supposed to love you choose not to see you? Thanksgiving was coming. I almost didn't go. Almost let them keep pretending I wasn't there. But that pretending was how this entire mess was built. So I went. And I carried the truth with me. Thanksgiving always looked perfect from the outside. White tablecloth, polished silverware, center candles flickering like something out of a lifestyle magazine. But the moment I stepped through the doorway, that old familiar pressure wrapped itself around my shoulders again. The kind that didn't ask permission. The kind that had shaped my entire childhood. Lily was standing near the fireplace, chin tilted just so, posing for her husband's camera like they were prepping a holiday card shoot. My mother was narrating details from Lily's September wedding to the cousins who had already heard the story a dozen times. And my father was pouring wine in that disconnected way he developed over the years, his eyes somewhere far away, like a man living between two worlds. Not one person asked how I was doing. Not one person mentioned the wedding they didn't show up for. Not one person even looked surprised to see me walk in. I sat down across from Lily. She didn't look at me once. Not even a flicker. Silence was her favorite performance, and she performed it well. Dinner began exactly as expected. Compliments about Lily's dress. Lily's venue. Lily's photographer. Lily's connections. Every sentence was a fresh reminder of the difference between us, the reminder they carved into me for decades. They celebrated her effortlessly. They erased me quietly. Then my mother tapped her glass again. It was almost déjà vu, her face bright and rehearsed. "Your sister's wedding was beautiful," she announced, turning to Lily as if to confirm the script. Then, with that same careless charm she used my whole life, she said, "So, Julia, when's yours?" Laughter followed. Safe. Polite. Mechanical. Even my father's knife paused mid-carve like it didn't know whose side it belonged to. Lily stared at her plate. Still. Too still. That told me everything. There was a time I would have smoothed it over. I would have smiled, brushed it off, let it scar me quietly. But not this time. Not with what I knew. Not after everything they chose not to see. I set my fork down gently. "I already had mine," I said. 6 months ago. The air shifted instantly. It felt like doors slammed shut even though nothing moved. A vacuum of sound. A silence that demanded attention. I let that silence stay. Let it live. "You got invitations," I added calmly. Forks froze midair. My mother's smile collapsed. My father blinked like he wasn't sure he heard correctly. Across from me, Lily didn't move. Her stillness wasn't confusing. It was fear. She knew exactly where this was going. "Julia," my father started carefully, we never got any invitations." And there it was. The story they rehearsed without ever speaking it out loud. The lie they clung to like a life raft. Something inside me didn't rise in anger. It settled. Calm and clean. Like clarity finally snapping into place after years of blur. "I figured you'd say that," I said. I reached into my bag, slow and steady. No theatrics. No raised voice. Just truth. I placed my phone on the table and tapped the screen. The glow reflected in the wine glasses, the candlelight catching the edges like a blade. Every eye locked onto it. This was the line I had never crossed before, the one that separated the girl they molded from the woman I'd become. With one swipe, I opened the receipts. 4 deliveries. 4 signatures. All marked received. I zoomed in on the first one and rotated the screen so the whole table could see. That confidence in the handwriting at the bottom was unmistakable. "Lily." My mother gasped, covering her mouth with her hand. My father leaned in, squinting like he needed to see the truth fully to believe it. Lily's husband stiffened beside her, his eyes darting between her and the screen like he'd suddenly discovered a stranger sitting in her chair. Lily didn't blink. "These were delivered April 23rd, I said softly. All 4 signed by Lily." Silence again, but a different kind this time. Not confusion. Exposure. "Julia," my father whispered, "this must be a mistake." "It's not," I said, swiping to the next screenshot. Priority mail. Signature required. All confirmed. All delivered. I paused. All intercepted. My mother shook her head. "No. No. That makes no sense. Lily would never." "Stop," I said gently. Not harsh. Just tired. "You keep insisting Lily wouldn't do things, but you never look at what she actually does." The table went still. Really still. Ryan, Lily's husband, finally asked, "Lily, did you sign for these?" Lily blinked like her brain was restarting. I don't remember. Maybe I got the mail, but I didn't see anything. Not invitations. I stayed silent. Sometimes silence is louder than accusations, and tonight it did more than yelling ever could. My father stared at her now, his voice tight. "You didn't see 4 packages from your sister? In the same month she got engaged?" Lily snapped, defensive and sharp, "It's not my job to track everyone's mail." It was the first crack in her facade. My mother reached toward her, but I said, let her talk. She's had the microphone for years. Lily's eyes narrowed. What's that supposed to mean? I didn't answer. Instead, I opened the last piece of proof Ethan helped me gather. This, I said, is the activity log for the family email account. The announcement I sent in April was opened here. In this house. Then deleted immediately. My father's jaw locked. Who has access to that email? Everyone knew the answer. Everyone had always known. Lily broke first. I didn't delete anything. She insisted too quickly. I tilted my head slightly. Then why does it show your device ID? Her mouth opened. Closed. Opened again. I don't know. Maybe it was an accident. Maybe I clicked it by mistake. Why are you attacking me? I'm not, I said calmly. I'm showing you what you did. My mother exhaled sharply. Why would Lily hide your invitations? Why would she sabotage your wedding? That's ridiculous. I looked at her. Really looked. Why? I repeated. Because my wedding was in June. Hers was in September. I turned to Lily. Because you didn't want anyone talking about mine before yours. And for the first time all night, Lily flinched. That truth hit her like a mirror she'd been avoiding for years. That's insane, Lily said, her voice cracking with anger she didn't know how to hide anymore. You twist everything to make me look awful. No, I said, keeping my voice level. You did that on your own. Ryan's chair scraped against the floor as he stood abruptly. His eyes were wide, confused, betrayed. Lily, is this true? She stared down at her napkin, her chest rising and falling in uneven breaths. This isn't, everyone always thinks Julia is so innocent. She never wants anything, she never causes trouble, she never ruins anything for anyone. She just exists and everyone feels, what? I asked softly. That one question pulled the truth out of her like a thread snapping. Feel guilty, she whispered, voice shaking. Feel small. Feel like she doesn't even have to try. Ah. There it was. Not just tonight's truth. But a truth that stretched back through every year of our childhood. I leaned back slightly, not triumphant, just tired. So you hid my wedding because, what? Because it was quiet? Because it didn't compete with your 6-tier cake and choreographed string quartet? She gasped like she'd been slapped. That's not, but the truth was already in the air, thick enough for everyone at the table to feel. My father looked between us like he was suddenly seeing both of his daughters clearly for the first time. We didn't know, he said desperately to me. If we had known, you would have come. I finished for him. After missing everything else? After forgetting birthdays, after never showing up unless it involved Lily? He closed his eyes. A long, quiet, painful moment of realization. My mother's face tightened, the way it always did when the narrative she'd protected started to crack. You cannot put all that on us, she snapped. We did our best. No, I said gently but firmly. You did your best for Lily. For me, you did the bare minimum and called it fairness. Lily sank slowly into her chair again. Shoulders folding. Eyes losing that spark she weaponized. Even she knew she couldn't argue with the truth anymore. A strange quiet filled the room, not the tense kind, but the kind that comes with clarity. Heavy. Honest. Unavoidable. I looked at the 3 people I had spent decades trying to win over. Trying to make proud. Trying to be enough for. And I finally said the words I had swallowed my whole life. I didn't lose my family tonight, I said softly. I just stopped pretending I had one. My mother recoiled like the words physically hit her. Julia, don't you dare talk like that. Why? I asked. Because it threatens the story you built. The one where Lily is perfect, Dad is neutral, you're the peacemaker, and I'm the problem. No one ever said you were the problem, my father whispered. You didn't need to say it, I replied. You showed it. Over and over. Ryan eased back into his chair, staring at Lily with a look I had never seen on his face before. Like he was meeting someone entirely new. Like he wasn't sure he liked who he found. Lily whispered, barely audible, Julia, please. That small, broken, please, carried years of guilt, fear, and the sudden realization that she couldn't control the narrative anymore. Not tonight. I stood slowly. The chair legs made a soft sound against the hardwood. Not harsh. Just final. I'm done begging for a place at this table, I said quietly. I'm done pretending the silence doesn't hurt. I'm done accepting that Lily's choices are things I'm supposed to swallow. I'm done letting you rewrite me. My father stood too, reaching toward me. Julia, wait. We can talk, we are talking, I said. For the first time. And for the last time this way. My mother's eyes were shiny with tears she wasn't sure how to use. We can fix this. You can't fix what you refuse to acknowledge, I said. And you refused for years. I grabbed my coat from the back of my chair. It felt lighter in my hands than it ever had before. I put it on slowly, feeling the warmth settle around me instead of the house's cold expectations. Behind me, Lily sobbed, quiet and uncontrolled. My mother murmured my name like a prayer. My father muttered, we should have checked. We should have asked. But their sorrow wasn't my burden anymore. I walked to the front door, opened it, and let a wave of cold night air hit my face. Before stepping out, I turned just enough to say one last thing. You didn't miss my wedding, I said softly. You chose not to see it. Then I stepped outside. No slamming door. No dramatic exit. Just a firm close. A clean line drawn. And for the first time in my life, the silence that followed belonged to me. Ethan opened the car door before I even reached it, like he'd been watching, listening for my footsteps. One look at my face and he didn't ask a single question. He just pulled me into his arms and held me, letting me shake until my body remembered safety again. No judgment. No disappointment. Just presence. Something my family had never learned. The next morning felt strangely calm, like the world had finally stopped pressing its weight against my ribs. Ethan made coffee quietly, the way he did when he knew I needed space before words. And when his parents invited us over for breakfast, I went. Not because I needed comfort, but because being around people who actually showed up felt like the right place to breathe. Their home smelled like warm bread and cinnamon. No tension. No performances. No silent tests I had to pass. Helen squeezed my hand the moment I walked in, her eyes soft but steady. Your family here, she said. Not because you married my son, but because you matter. I felt something loosen inside me, something I didn't even know was clenched. When I sat at their table, no one asked for explanations. No one dissected my emotions. No one turned my pain into gossip. They talked to me like I belonged. Like being seen was a given, not a privilege. Later that week, something unexpected happened. Lily emailed me. A long message. Apologetic. Overly therapeutic, almost rehearsed, like she had Googled how to apologize for ruining someone's life. She admitted things I didn't expect her to admit. Admitted she was wrong. Admitted she didn't handle things well. Admitted she'd been jealous for years without understanding why. Admitted she was ashamed. I read the whole thing twice. Then I closed it. I didn't reply. My father started calling too. Little check-ins. Short conversations, awkward but sincere. He didn't try to rewrite the past. He didn't make excuses. He just tried. And I let him. Slowly. Carefully. With boundaries he never had to face before. Then one afternoon, a small package arrived at my apartment. No note. No explanation. Inside was one of my wedding invitations. My actual invitation. The one that had disappeared. My father had found it in a storage box in the garage. Buried under old holiday decorations and boxes Lily had sorted. He didn't include any commentary. Just mailed it to me quietly, like he wanted the truth to speak for itself. And it did. My mother never reached out. Not a text. Not a call. Not a single attempt to understand. And instead of that hurting the way it used to, it felt clarifying. Some absences aren't wounds. They're answers. I stood in my living room one evening, watching Ethan cook dinner while soft music played in the background. Friends laughed in the other room, people who chose me every single day, people who showed up without needing a spotlight or an audience. For the first time in my life, I understood something deeply. Family isn't defined by blood. It's defined by presence. By who listens. By who stays. By who doesn't erase you to make space for themselves. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away from the people who never learned how to hold you. And sometimes, walking away is the first time you truly come home. If any part of this story feels familiar, tell me where you're listening from and share your experience below. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss what comes next.